so heavy. Okay.
Hey, welcome to the last talk show. Hey, welcome to the last talk show. Today we'll be talking to Chris Barton, the mastermind animatronics genius behind such films and franchises as Harry Potter, Star Wars, and there was something else we were just talking about. Muppets, too. He made Giant Hagrid, Aragog the Spider, Mad-Eye Moody's Eye. This is the guy who made it all. He's going to tell us all about it today as we get ready to watch one of the Harry Potter films. I forget which one. Stay tuned. Thanks, Amity.
Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Part 1!
All the way from the island of Nantucket, Massachusetts, it's Last Talk Show! Last Talk Show!
All right, so welcome to the last talk show, Chris. We're thrilled to have you here. We're talking today mostly about Harry Potter, but also about animatronics in general. You've built many things. Give me a quick overview of what the animatronic department is, what your role in it is, and what you've done.
Back in the day, I was responsible for the mechanical design or the insides of creatures in Harry Potter films, science fiction films. I did Fifth Element. I did a couple of Muppet films, Christmas Carol, Treasure Island, stuff like that. Star Wars, with The Phantom Menace. I was lucky enough to be able to work on Yoda. Things like that. So yeah, it's an area of film special effects that is a lot of people are more aware now than they used to be back in the day. What with animatronics you see in theme parks and all the rest of it. So yeah, happy to talk to you whatever you want to hear about tonight. Yeah, sure.
Yoda in Phantom Menace was actually a better actor than many of the actors in the film, right?
yeah.
That's sort of a joke, but also, how do you bring that level of acting to a robot, essentially, that has to work with actors and play off of them?
Good question. Well, obviously, Frank Oz, the great Muppeteer and film director, of course, Yoda was a hand puppet. So a lot of his personality, as he did with Fozzie Bear and Miss Piggy, it just gets transmitted through the live nature of that performance. So for something like Yoda, Kermit or Fozzie, it's relatively straightforward to get that persona, that personality to come out. It is harder if you've got a pure robot, as you say, but generally speaking, for things like that, people tend to use hand puppets for that very reason.
You did Babe as well, right? Worked on the...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And Babe is one of those things that, like, is a cuddly, wonderful pig is the stuff of dreams, but when you strip him down to his robotics, it is the stuff of nightmares.
Never worked with children and animals, they used to say back in the day, and I think animatronics falls firmly into that sphere as well.
It was an easy joke to go like, oh my God, what if we had a monkey in the scene and then the monkey just goes crazy or whatever, and then you get kicked in the butt. I'll use butt instead. When you get to the set and you're suddenly like, that took all day. We didn't have time to do anything because the monkey did not want to just go nuts in the way we wanted him to.
Absolutely. Which is why, of course, people tend to pick robot creatures, but then, of course, robot creatures go wrong as well.
Right. Also done a lot of prop restoration. So not just things you built for films, but you'll get things that'll come into your shop, basically. I assume it's your garage at home, but that's just my assumption. It is more or less. And so somebody will call you up and go like, oh, I just got the whatever from whatever. Can you bring it back to...
I've got one here, actually. This is a phaser from one of the Star Trek films.
Oh, my God.
And it was missing a button. So I remade a button for it. But it has to go on the display stand. So rather than just lying on a desktop somewhere and whatever, I've made a little display for it, so it actually just stays nicely presented. So yeah, it's a fun job. Yeah, and I do work in my workshop in the back garden, or garden shed, as many might call it. Yeah.
Are you ever tempted to put on any of the outfits that you get in that come through the shop?
No, but I did put Indiana Jones's jacket on.
Yeah.
You've got it, haven't you? You know, I mean,
Yeah.
really. No, but I mean, I'm not a very tall guy, and there's just no way on earth I'm going to try and Christopher Reeve's Superman costume.
Right.
I mean, it's just not right, is it?
No.
You know?
Well, that one would feel very personal to try on.
Yeah, totally. But in terms of movies I've worked on, I think Fifth Element was. I'd just come off a Muppet film, and Muppet films are great fun, and I love them very much. But the films I got into the film industry for were films like Fifth Element. You know, where Bruce Willis, action star, French director, Luc Besson, very stylish. Jean-Paul Gaultier did all the costume design. It was that was 9 months of heaven. That was great fun, really was.
Yeah. So, and you're in another world for the run of that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And it was just, you know, it was the sort of film I always hoped I would get a chance to work on in a way.
Yeah.
You know, in that respect. So, I mean, The Flintstones wasn't a great movie, but I did enjoy working on that as well. I mean,
but some crazy props in that. I mean, in a weird way. Yeah. And a very big budget. I mean, they actually, I think, they're able to make some amazing things.
Well, you see, you have to remember when Flintstones was made, the CG hadn't really broken over the film industry yet. They'd just done Jurassic Park. In fact, the crew had come off Jurassic Park and went straight on to Flintstones. So they all sort of knew what was this huge shift that was going to happen with physical effects. But we didn't. In fact, the thing I built for Flintstones was Dino. And Dino was a man in a suit, and it was a stuntman, an English guy who could run around on all fours and put up with the rigors of just these horrible things to wear. You know, had a remote-controlled head mounted on his back, but sadly Dino couldn't look like Dino from the cartoon because it had to accommodate a man. And the original Dino had this huge pear-shaped body with little legs, and of course when we got out there, Jurassic Park was pretty much in the can in as much it was about to be released weeks away. And they took one look at Dino and went, nah, I think we're going to do Dino another way, frankly, now. There's a new toy in town, you know. And that was 4 months of work for a few people, just dismissed there and then. You know.
That may have been the last dinosaur suit in a way, right? So, all right, so let's talk about Harry Potter a little bit. I mean, it felt like just looking at the list of things that crossed your path. You've worked on all the films, I believe, in some way. And
pretty much, yeah. I missed out on one or two, I think. I only did the first one of the last. They split the seventh one into two, didn't they?
Yeah.
Parts. So I only did the first one of those, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I did a load. Yeah.
So you got Aragog the Spider, Mad-Eye Moody's Eye, which is an incredible piece of art, however you look at it.
I asked to do Mad-Eye Moody.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to be in a position where I could make that request.
Yep.
And thankfully it jibed with what they wanted. So yeah, that was great. Yeah, because I'd read the book and I had an idea on how to do the eye. So, because it's the eye in the film is mechanical. It's controlled by radio control for a vast majority of the shots. There are some CG ones.
Yep.
Some replacement where they've gone in there and just tuned it up. But yeah, it was actually like that on set. So, and controlled by me. So that was great fun. I should well imagine, you know, working with Brendan Gleeson, the actor who played Mad-Eye. Yeah. And the problem was that you can't put a sphere in somebody's face and have the eye look everywhere. So I only put a very small part of the shell on his eye, and then the pupil moved around the surface of the eye rather than the eye move itself.
Oh, interesting. Amazing.
So yeah, like a contact lens in a strange way. So the eye itself never moved, but the pupil did. And because of this, you could get this really exaggerated, far-flung movement. And of course, I could play around with it as well. So, you know, even when we were off camera, the eye would still be looking at people and all that sort of stuff. So it was a fun thing to do, very much so.
How much time do you spend on set with actually shooting?
Well, every shot Mad-Eye was in, the eye was in as well. And as a consequence, I was there on the day too. I mean, Brendan had quite a bit of makeup put on. So he had a forehead piece, 2 cheek pieces, all to disguise, well, to give him scars, the sort of Mad-Eye Moody look, but also to help cover up how the mechanical eye fitted to his head.
Yeah,
of course. So I'd come in at the makeup call. So he'd be in at 5:36 in the morning, and I'd be there as well. And again, and be there all through the day with him on call. And then at the end of the day, be there as he took the makeup off, make sure everything's working nicely.
Yep. Any adventures with Brendan on set? Are you guys killing time together? Do you ever take the eyeball out anywhere, or?
No, not really. No, I did have a rather few many pints of drink on St Patrick's Day in a pub in North London with him, but that's another story. But yeah, no. Well, you know what it's like. It is a professional setup, so you don't really get to goof around, other than just those moments you can steal. You know, if he was talking to Gary Oldman about stuff, the two actors would be just chatting away. I'd start messing around with the eye and staring at things, staring at Gary and all the rest of it. And you know, probably slightly irritating, but it made me laugh, as it were.
The amount of time it took to make all those movies and checking back in, it's rare with features that you get that kind of both a family that grows out of that, but also the sort of the time that takes. Like those kids watching Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson, all those kids growing up over the course of that.
Well, all the kids were like 10 or 11, I think, when for Harry Potter.
Yeah. And
come the end, you know, they're practically adults.
Yeah.
Really, you know, I mean, absolutely extraordinary. For Harry Potter 1, the Philosopher's Stone, I think it's called the Philosopher's Stone in the States, or Sorcerer's Stone, I think it was called. Either way, I did Hagrid, the giant.
Yeah.
Now, Hagrid was obviously played by Robbie Coltrane, but they needed a full-size version. And again, CG was an alternative, but CG then, as is probably the case now, is very, very expensive. So in looking to sort of cut a few corners, as it were, they decided to cast a large man and dress him up as to be 7'5" Hagrid for long shots and all the rest. So I worked on the head. I sort of just took care of the head, and he had the guy who played him was a guy called Martin Bayfield. He's an English rugby player, and he's 6'10" in his socks. So he had 6-inch platforms inside Hagrid's boots. And then he had this great big Robbie Coltrane silicon head on top of his own head. So that brought him to around 7'5". And of course, he was used for all the kids, particularly so the kids can relate to there's no sort of looking at the tennis ball or a cross. They can actually look at Hagrid the giant, as it were. So
I have some questions from my daughter's high school in Los Angeles has a Quidditch club, and I asked them for some official Quidditch club questions. These we can just buzz through these, see what they spark.
Yep, fire away.
Have you visited the Warner Studios tours, the Harry Potter studio tour in London, and if so, what did you think?
Yes, I have. I've been there twice. Yeah, I mean, it's great, really good. It's amazing to see all the props and pieces all in one place. It's an astonishing collection of creativity and art. I'm very pleased as well. I've got a wand box there. As you leave the exhibition, there's a room full of wands or boxes of wands, and it's all the crew. And I'm pleased to say I've got one of my own. So if anybody ever goes there, Chris Barton's wand box is present. So yeah,
excellent. Yeah, we went a few years ago, and I was really impressed with how handmade everything felt and how substantial and real, and
extraordinary. Yeah,
in a world of CGI, going like, oh, this is actually like a built-out world that is very personal.
Yeah. I think a lot of people expect it to be fake. It's a movie, things won't look that realistic. But as you know, when you go there, it's absolutely and utterly convincing in every way. You don't doubt it for a minute. I mean, having said that, some of the props and pieces are genuine bits of jewellery or wrought iron or whatever. I mean, the artistry is just exemplary. It's fantastic.
All right, next question from the Quidditch Club. Did you design or just build?
I designed the mechanisms. you get the brief. This is what a creature has to do. So it's then up to the like me and the likes of people in the crew to come up with a way of doing it. So I got a hand in designing Mad-Eye Moody's eye. That was interesting, but generally speaking, the art department's already taken care of a lot of these things in advance, and things might get changed as you get to build them for technical reasons. But no, not really. I mean, Mad-Eye Moody, as you might know, as a strap and a piece that holds the eye in, which isn't how it's described in the book. We were really struggling to make it look good and look right with just this massive eye. So, in fact, when we started doing Mad-Eye Moody, we didn't have an actor. Mm. So I volunteered. So, well, look, take a cast of my face, put all the makeups on me. I can build an eye then that fits me, and I can see how it works. And then when the actor does get cast, we can hit the floor running. So they did a few sculpts of me. So,
oh my God,
that's a silicon sculpt of me, and that's with the sort of the original concept of the giant eye. Right?
Were you a fan of Harry Potter before getting the job, or was it just another job? And then did you read all the books before or after getting the job?
Well, I've got young kids, or I had young kids at the time. But yeah, so I was well aware of Harry Potter and all the rest of it. And, it's a big movie. I mean, a really big deal. And as a consequence, it was one of the films around to work on. So yeah, I was very keen to work on it for many reasons. Again, why do you get jobs in the film industry? It was one of those movies that you always wish you could have worked on. That said, I was glad I never worked on Lord of the Rings, because I like going to see movies, and working on them does rob you of being able to see a film from a detached point of view. So I was pleased.
Like if I'm in the middle of editing something, then I'll go and I'll notice all the edits in something, or I'll be a critic of the jokes if I'm writing jokes currently or whatever. Do you ever go to something and go like, pick apart the animatronics, or you just...
Oh yeah. All manner of what I perceive to be not errors, but technical issues and whatnot. You just suck my family are always going, what? I'll be watching a film and I'll just go, ugh. And they'll say, what? And I'll say, well, that so-and-so obviously didn't work very well there, and stuff like this, You're cursed, Donny, can't you? You can't, if you work on, you just can't help but watch this stuff. Not criticize, but be aware of what you're actually watching. Right. You catch things others don't.
Yeah. A few more questions from the Quidditch Club. Did the animatronics ever scare you when you were building or fixing them?
But only because they were dangerous to work with. Yeah, we've done some scary big things in our time on Harry Potter. The giant basilisk snake was huge. Yeah. Aragog the spider was massive, and they weigh a lot, tons. Yeah. So yeah, no, I was never frightened by them per se, but certainly I treated them with respect, shall we say?
Yeah. You knew how many amps of electricity were running through things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. All right, a couple more here. How much of the movies is CGI?
The first 4, there was a lot of mechanical, practical stuff. And then on 5, they really, really embraced CG. The crew on Harry Potter 4, the creature crew on Harry Potter 4 was over 200 people. We were the biggest single department on the movie. Wow. Obviously, construction was larger, but in terms of plasterers and scaffolding guys, riggers, we were the largest department. On Harry Potter 5, we had a crew of 17, and it was all down to the fact that they just turned a lot of the creature stuff over to CGI.
Wow!
So there was a major shift there. Yeah, sadly, of course, and it seemed like that was the way it was going to be forever. But thankfully, particularly with the new Star Wars films, there's been a bit of a renaissance for doing things practically. So a lot of the guys who worked on Harry Potter, who I used to work with, I mean, they do BB-8 and stuff like that. There's now a new rich sort of outlet for animatronics and practical effects, which back in the days of Potter, it seemed like it was gone forever.
Even though it's a robot or a puppet that you can't quite achieve with the
Yeah, particularly if you're dealing with children.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you've got a 12-year-old and you're trying to say, no, this big snake's really scary, and you actually do have a great big snake there, it makes life a lot easier for all. You know, I mean, so yeah, I agree. There's something about having something there. I mean, we're all aware of people like Ian McKellen playing Gandalf, just acting on his own in a room, when in fact in the finished film he's amongst all the dwarves or whatever, and I know for a fact he said he doesn't enjoy that process. So, you know, I think it's a fair point that having a presence of a mechanical thing or whatever is very important. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you control Mad-Eye Moody's eye? Is there like a control panel, a joystick or something?
Yeah, just a radio controlled transmitter with 2 little joysticks, and one that made his eyes go left and right, and up and down made his eye go up and down, and you can then move the joystick and the eye would go wherever it went. Yeah, that was it. It was battery powered, and it was just plugged in every morning, and off we went.
All right, I'm going to run through these pictures just real quick.
That's Chris Columbus, the director there, the guy with the dark hair, and it just gives an idea of how tall Martin Bayfield was. Yeah. Really, you know, it's just an element of scale, really. This was in Oxford University. These were the cloisters at Oxford University, doubling for an area of Hogwarts, obviously. This is Goblet of Fire, and this is the stadium where they're all watching Harry Potter fight the dragon, or try to get the golden egg from the dragon, and that's that's what Martin Bayfield looked like with the head on. And it's a fair representation of Robbie Coltrane, you know. I mean, if you didn't linger on it for too long, you'd totally buy the fact that Robbie Coltrane was large, or massive, as it were. Again, as the film progressed, they used more and more CGI and more actually making Robbie Coltrane himself larger in frame rather than using Martin Bayfield. So they used the giant suit less and less and less. Yeah. As the later films continue.
Incredibly realistic looking, and you also get a sense just from this one shot how many kids had to be wrangled in every scene. Like,
oh god, yeah, can you imagine it? Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was long days.
Long days. And then we have it looks like Dobby here, or parts of Dobby.
Dobby always was CGI, so he was never anything else but that. However, just to give everybody an idea of what they were trying to imagine, and indeed for putting on set and photographing prior to principal photography with the actor or whatever, they'd shoot Dobby as a stand-in. So they could get light cues and references, scale references and all the rest of it from Dobby. So, you know, even though he was never seen on screen like that, nonetheless, it was always nice to see a physical manifestation that people can sort of respond to in that respect.
This is actually Dobby's stand-in, in a way.
In a way, yeah. I think they may have used him occasionally from shooting from behind his head, looking over him. Perhaps they could just cheat that for the angle or whatever. But generally speaking, it was never something that was seen in front of camera. But you can look at the detail they've gone into with it. I mean, even for something which isn't necessarily ever seen, it's still amazing.
Still amazing. And the next few photos are amazing too. And this looks like the crew of 200 probably. This is the serpent snake.
Yeah, this is the sculpture for the basilisk from Chamber of Secrets. Yeah. So whenever these creatures are made big, Robbie Coltrane's large head for Martin Bayfield to wear, obviously they're sculpted in clay initially. Now if it's a small creature, that's done on a bench, but you know, a large creature like the basilisk takes up an entire room, as you can see. And then, of course, it has to be moulded. And from that mould, they make the skin. This is the crew trying to put the skin on the actual armature of the creature, which you can't really see there, but it just gives you an idea of, this isn't something you just throw on. It was big, heavy, and cumbersome. Black and white one, yeah, that's in the Chamber of Secrets, obviously. Yeah, that's the actual that very same thing. It's in the film quite a lot, the mechanical one. It did make the cuts, quite a few cuts, but of course a lot of it is CG because it doesn't quite slither around as you might imagine a real snake would do. And in the next one, you can actually see it in the Chamber of Secrets. It's by that huge sculpted head, and it's on a track there with cranes and goodness knows what else to help facilitate the movement of the snake. So quite a big deal doing something like that. So doing Mad-Eye Moody's eye, a little thing that clips onto the actor, to that, I mean, it's from one extreme to the other in that respect.
That's like the wonderful challenge of your job is always like, okay, let me wrap my head around it. This is this big, but it has to have all this functionality, or this is, this is going to require 200 people or 2 people, or it's unpredictable, I guess is the word.
Yeah, totally. Well, this is why we had such a large crew. I mean, if you're doing stuff like this all the time, there's a huge amount of labour that goes into them. The Aragog photo, I think there's a picture of me with Aragog. All the little hairs are all punched in by hand on his legs, I mean, somebody's done that. And again, just a huge amount of work goes into these things, really does. Yeah. And indeed, in the next picture, you can see all the controls, all the hydraulics, the rig that supports him from the back, that facilitated that creature. So it's not just making the creature, it's making all this stuff.
How much do you have to study how a spider moves before you get into this? Like how much of those mechanics are you deep diving on?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, it's more about skeletons and stuff like that and figuring out where the joints are rather than necessarily figuring movement. If you get the joints in the right place,
right,
when you move it just automatically looks creepy like a spider.
Right.
The front 4 legs of Aragog, the 2 pairs, they were controlled individually. So you've got 4 leg-shaped controls. So if you move the leg-shaped control, the actual leg would follow and move in exactly the same way, like a slave sort of mechanism. So
you had 4 separate leg operators.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
Then we had Martin Bayfield on the back of it because he was a big lad helping us move the crane along the track and up to get it out. And then of course all the puppeteers doing the eyes and everything. There's lots of little hairs all over him, which are all on motors, so they'd all twitch and stuff like that. Yeah. And what do you see in the movie? You just see a big spider and it's scary and then it's gone, I mean.
That's why it's scary. It has so much personality and so much, the way it is a bit unpredictable rather than it does a repeating motion or something.
I was really happy the way that it was used in the movie, particularly when it comes out. It sort of does this sort of the spider leg thing coming out of the hole first and then the spider coming out. And it really hit that sort of darkness of spiders, Interesting. Peter Jackson came around the studio while we were building that because he was in the throes of doing Lord of the Rings, and he was looking at how to do giant spiders himself, of course. So he was really interested to see what we'd done. But of course, his schlob, as it were, in the Lord of the Rings is a whole different ball game when it comes to spider movement. But nonetheless, it was interesting that he was trying to crack the same nut, as it were.
Right, and it's also amazing that it wasn't a closed set and that this stuff was guarded. That there was enough of a creative exchange that it's like, oh, Peter Jackson.
Oh God, yeah, totally, yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it should be like that. Yeah,
it should be like that. I feel like so much stuff we do now is like you have to sign this, and you'll never share the script. You will not talk about what you've seen here. It's like
it's a big plot point. I can see why, but. Yeah, there's a lot of knowledge learned in these productions, and it's right that it's shared. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you can only benefit from having someone like Peter Jackson poke his head in and go like, I love this about it. What if that one hair went this way? And you go like, yeah, he's right. Great. That's a person who kind of knows.
And of course, it's a thrill to see Peter Jackson wandering around, I mean, as well. It's fun. Great fun, yeah.
And then this last picture is...
That's the makeup for Mad-Eye Moody. So the big dome bit is his forehead. And then you can see there his right-hand cheek. Now, every day when he has one of these makeups put on, at the end of the day, they're thrown away. So if it's a 40-day shoot, 40 identical pieces of makeup have to be made to see through that entire shoot. So and they all have to match. So as you can see there, it's remarkably similar how all the pieces are, as it were. But again, just for a makeup, you think, well, so what, he's wearing makeup? But there's a huge amount of effort gone in, and all the hairs in that are all hand punched. Yeah. And all the hairs have to be hand punched in all the same places, pretty much. So you don't notice from day to day that there's no major difference in the look of in the look of Mad-Eye Moody.
What title on a set is the hair hand puncher?
Well, that's just it came under hair and makeup, that sort of thing. But yeah, but hair punching is people do it, and hair knotting. Yeah. I mean, Chewbacca is an entirely hand knotted hair suit. So I mean, it is not so much a title on set, but definitely a job title in the workshop. Yeah, absolutely.
This is a section we call Tips for Kids, presented by Musack.
Come on, guys, help the kids out. Go to musack.org. No, that's the way you spell it.
Do you have some tips for the kids?
First and foremost, practice. You have to put the hours in, and not be disillusioned if it doesn't work out first time. You learn more by your mistakes than you do by your successes. And successes are lovely, and everybody loves having them, but you don't learn a lot from it. So don't be put off if you make a few mistakes, but persist. Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say, and neither's talent.
Any moments on set where you're sort of sitting there and then you suddenly look over and there's whoever it is, Bill Murray is standing there, and you're like, how did I get here? What am I doing here? Did you ever feel any moments of like?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Yeah. Yeah. I've been fortunate enough to meet many, many famous actors. I mean, just look at the actors involved with Harry Potter. For a start. I mean, and they all love creatures and creature effects, and so they're always bringing their families around. And you have guests. Robin Williams came around once because he's big friends with Chris Columbus, the film director. I'm sure you've had similar events where you just end up pinching yourself and think, what am I allowed to be here?
Yeah. How did I sneak onto set and no one's kicking me off? Yeah.
Yeah, it was always a thrill to walk onto a set knowing that I was allowed to be there.
I did want to mention chrisbartonart.com is your website.
I do giant music cassettes, as you have one yourself, as you know, and I love making them, but they're very involved.
These are 4 times actual size.
Yeah.
How many have you constructed at this point?
35, 40 of them.
Yep.
Something like that. So opens up.
Oh my God.
Inside.
They're so amazing.
There's canvas.
Yep.
So that's a hand painted version of the original cover. So that's my own artwork.
Even the instructions for how to hang them is a piece of art. I love how.
Because I do film prop displays, I sort of it's a shoo-in for me to do the displays for the cassettes as well. So so people have to know how to handle them, because they're not fragile, but at the same time you need to know how to treat them.
And someday, I'm sure everyone makes this joke, but someday you will build a giant cassette player and we will play the cassettes.
I have one. I've got one already.
You built one?
Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
It's in the attic at the moment. It doesn't play anything. It's just a giant cassette player. All
right, I'm gonna finish up. We have something called the last talk show lightning round. These are just some quick questions to take us to the end. What is the last great film you saw?
Le Mans '66, Ford versus Ferrari.
Last thing that made you laugh?
My dog this morning. We've got a goofy dog.
Yeah. Last drive-in movie you saw?
I've never been to a drive-in movie.
Oh, you'll have to join us then next time.
I would love to. We don't have drive-in movie theaters over here.
Last great use of animatronics in film that you've seen?
Wow. That must be BB-8 from Star Wars. I
Yeah.
think that was clever. Yeah, I know the guys that built that, and they're very talented men. But nonetheless, that was a cut above the rest, I felt.
Thanks for joining us on the last talk show. Chris, I want to give you the last word.
Well, thank you so much, Dominic, for inviting me. I hope you all enjoyed the film tonight, and do think of my mum and dad. Every time I was involved with the film, my name would be in the credits. And after the cinema show was over, my mum and dad were the last two people still sitting in the cinema watching my name or waiting for my name to come up in the credits. So spare a foot for them, and remember that the amount of people that put their heart and soul into movies.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And
You're
everybody
welcome,
else,
Dominic.
enjoy Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows.
Indeed. Enjoy it, guys.
Let's talk show. Let's talk show.